Well, good morning, and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. The Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, 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 and fightbackmediatv.com. We trust that you are doing well this glorious, glorious Tuesday evening, morning, Wednesday, whenever you get to this. We try to do one every day now. The past week has been a little busy, a little crazy. Of course, last week, we had the hurricane, real hurricane. Now there are areas of Florida. Now I think I downplay it, but I only downplay it for my area. People in our area just get news media just gets and gets all nutty about it. What really that by the time that storm came onto the Florida shore, it was a Category 4 storm, and a Category 4 storm. It's a real live storm. It's something to be concerned about for sure, and caused an awful lot of damage in up around the Gold Coast, through cities like Perry, and again, no one's ever heard of Perry. Perry's southeast of Tallahassee. No one's ever heard of Tallahassee either, but it's the state capital of Florida, and caused an obscene amount of damage, especially on the coast. A lot of people live on the coast, on the water, near or on the Gulf, so it caused a lot of problems there. There was some flooding as we were on the east side of the storm, and when you get on the east side of the storm, because storms spin counterclockwise in this hemisphere, it pushes the water up onto the shore, and so you get flooding in areas that when people build their house 15 feet from the beach, or 15 feet from the bay, you get flooding. That's just kind of how it is. I think that's one of the things that if you want to live there, that's got to be one of those things you consider. So if you want to live in the Midwest, tornadoes is something you have to consider. If you want to live in San Francisco, earthquakes is something you have to consider. You just can't think just because you live there now and they build houses there that it's perfectly safe, like it's milk safe, like nothing's ever going to happen to you there. That is just not a realistic thing. If you live in Hawaii and you live in and around volcanoes, yeah, that could end up being, that could end up being a situation at some point. I think you have to consider that as a grown up. Our hearts go out and our prayers go out to those in Hawaii and Maui and those areas that are suffering from the fires, and it's the hardest thing ever. And so again, our prayers go out to those folks, and those people who suffered, even those folks in California who suffered some damage from their hurricane. And it's the world is a living, breathing thing. It has storms. It's always had storms and always will. And no amount of taxes or driving an EV will stop that from happening. It just won't. Anyway, I want to get to the real subject matter of this morning's morning report. This guy I have that's behind me, if you're watching the video, is Dr. Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci, according to an article in The Guardian, admits that there is a lack of evidence showing dreaded COVID mask mandates stopped pandemic, but he wants us to cover up anyway. He says there's evidence, maybe, but he wants us to cover up anyway. So, the former head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Anthony Fauci, was known as the nation's COVID czar during the pandemic. Fauci has backtracked and said that the data is less strong to show that masks worked. Dr. Fauci has admitted that there is a lack of evidence to show mask wearing stopped the spread of COVID, a far cry from his early pandemic steadfastness that the mandate was going to curb the spike of spiking cases. The former head of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Anthony Fauci, 82, Anthony Fauci, was branded as the nation's COVID czar because he sternly recommended wearing face coverings and social distancing in public. And we learned that social distancing, that 6 foot, was made up. 6 feet sounds like they'll buy that. Nothing scientific about 6 feet. Um, but when you went in the grocery store, they had, grocery stores were now, one way things, right? And when you were checking out, you had to stand on your dot. The amusement park that I worked in, when we finally opened, we had dots on the ground. People were supposed to stand in their little groups 6 feet apart. Nothing magical about 6 feet. Nothing magical about 6 feet, but that was the direction, right? So as early as April 2020, he told fearful Americans, if everyone does that, then we're each protecting each other, because the data is it's more efficient to prevent transmitting to others than it is to prevent transmission to yourself. This is what he said. People had to wear masks in school, public transportation, restaurants, workplaces, amusement parks, everywhere. Everywhere. We went to the grocery stores, whatever. When you went to get your hair done, if you could get your hair done, wherever, gas stations, wherever, everywhere. In some places, they require people to wear masks even if they were outdoors, like the amusement park I work in. But following a series of leaked emails and interviews, it's always interesting what's going on behind the scenes. I think that in my time doing this, what I've learned is that there is that exterior conversation, and that's the conversation that you and I hear, and there's also that interior conversation that happens behind the scenes that maybe we'll hear later, maybe we won't. But following a series of leaked emails and interviews since the height of the pandemic, Fauci has been criticized for flip-flopping his beliefs, as he admitted that there is lack of evidence to suggest they worked in halting the spread of the virus. Now, he also said, and I want to make sure, because this video is going to, if it's going to last on YouTube at all, I think it's fair that I give a all of it, talk about all of it. He also said that he is sticking to his statements because at the time he said it, it was the right thing to say. Okay. My problem is that when you have a population who is as nervous and who is as panicked as especially the American population was at the time, you have to be more sure, because even if he were right, let's go ahead and be realistic, or just be honest, even if he was right at the time, it is easy to see how saying it's okay now, don't do it, don't do it, do it, do it, really do it, wear 2 masks and the box that it came in. As that changed, even as situations change, you can easily see how it was confusing, how it created a distrust of what he was saying. It would have been better to say, do it, wear 3 masks and the box it came in, and cover your head in saran wrap and stay inside and hide under your bed. Even if he was wrong. Or say, don't worry about it, don't bother. Definitely don't put a bandana around your face and think that you're doing anything, right? That was a real problem, I think. He recently told CNN, when you're talking about the effect of epidemic, on the epidemic or the pandemic as a whole, this is what he said. Now, YouTube, y'all gonna do what you're gonna do, but this is what Dr. Fauci said when he talked to CNN. As far as the entire thing, the data is less strong. But then there are other studies, he says, that show that at an individual level, for individuals, it might be protective. It might be. I think that maybe it's protective if you're wearing the right kind of mask. I think it may be effective if you're wearing the mask correctly. I think that it depends on what's out there. If you wear a mask, can it prevent you from getting a cold? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We've all been in environments where you get in and it was like a sick ward. Everybody's hacking and wheezing and coughing and sneezing and farting and sharting. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, dang, I should be in a hazmat suit in here. This is the worst office ever, right? Everybody in this classroom is sick. Everybody in this office is sick. Everybody in this building is sick, and they caught it from each other, right? So maybe masking up in an area like that during a certain amount of time may be a good idea. May not be a good idea. I don't know. I don't know. It would seem to me that it would be very simple to find out the size of the virus and the size of the holes in the mask. Whether you're carrying it, other people are carrying it, or they're not. I don't know. I'm not, again, YouTube, because YouTube wants to shut this video down because that's what they do. I'm not telling people what to do. Uh, I have a good friend that I work with at the music store who wears a mask every day. He wears a mask. He has a an area where he works in his desk, and he's able to not only have a door there. Um, he also has the were open areas are now taped up, and he has, I don't know, some sort of covering. It can't be airtight, obviously, but it is trying to make sure that the rest of us don't sneeze or fart or however or cough or however and get our nasty germs in his area. And frankly, it doesn't matter what I think. As a matter of fact, he was talking to me today, and we were, I don't know, this close. He was masked up. I was not. He didn't seem nervous to talk to me, and I think he didn't seem nervous to talk to me because he was messed up. And even if he knew that I have not, I did not, do the thing. I didn't. Um, he thinks he's protected, and with me, he is not sick. So if he feels better about it, and he's not trying to beat anybody over the head with it, fine, fine. I'm not trying to beat him over the head with it either. But anyway, a spokesman for the New York City's health department told DailyMail.com that wearing a mask may be a quote good idea end quote in crowded indoor spaces this weekend when people are expected to congregate in large groups for the holidays, which is exactly what I just said. So YouTube, I just said what the spokesman for the New York City Health Department said. Just said the very same thing. So if you're coming after me, go after them too. But they also expressed that nothing about the guidance has changed, and the city currently has no plans to make masks compulsory. New York City is currently recording a rise in COVID cases and the hospital admissions caused by the virus. The latest data suggests the city's infection rate at about 18 cases per 100,000 people on August 29th, although it's likely to be an underestimate because so few people are testing. Nobody's testing. Nobody's going through that anymore because it's over, right? Hospitalizations are also rising, with 502 patients who had COVID admitted to city hospitals on August 31st. Now, I do this all the time. I do this all the time. I read something or I hear someone say something, and I always listen to the words they use. Hospitalizations are also rising, with 502 patients who had COVID admitted to the city's hospitals on August 31st. Were they in the hospital because of COVID, or were they get to admit to the hospital and had COVID? Did you just find out by happenstance they had COVID? I imagine there's some mix there. That marks a 5% rise compared to the previous week. However, it's still well below the peak this year of almost 2,000 patients in the hospital. Isn't it interesting? And again, isn't it interesting that this 5% increase compared to the previous week is now making news? 502 patients, where earlier this year, that you didn't hear about it there was a peak of almost 2,000 patients, 4 times the number of people. Radio silence. Last summer, in an interview with CBS, Fauci said that he had no regrets over his advice regarding mask mandates in the pandemic. And this is what I told you at the beginning of this. He said, I don't regret anything I said because in the context of the time in which I said it, it was correct. He believed as things were changing, his recommendations changed. The problem is the same thing I just said. The problem is that people are trying to follow it and they don't know what to do because they're not getting that the situation is changing. So you're changing. They're looking to you, Dr. Fauci, to say, do this and you'll be okay. Because people were afraid. They just wanted to be okay. They just want their loved ones to be okay. Here's what he says. We were told in our task force meetings that we could have a serious problem for the lack of PPEs and masks for the health providers who are putting themselves in harm's way every day to take care of sick people. That was at the beginning when he said, "Man, don't worry about it." It was a white lie. They call it the noble lie or whatever to keep us from going and just buying every mask, right? And so the healthcare workers wouldn't have any, right? So in December of 2021, Fauci told the public that he could not see the end of wearing masks on planes. He just never thought it would be a thing. Now, mask on planes. I never wore a mask on a plane because I didn't fly during the pandemic. Didn't fly during the pandemic. My teaching job, I did from right here for, I don't know, 2.5 months, almost 3 months. And then my other job at the amusement park, I worked in the temperature tents and didn't fly, didn't travel. The only trip that we had planned, my brother and sister-in-law basically didn't want my wife and I to come because we didn't take the thing. They didn't want us there. And in New York, in order to do anything, you had to show your vaccination card, and we didn't have one, which is funny. My brother-in-law knows me. He knows that I wasn't going to do that. He knew that. I think that even when we planned the trip, he basically was hoping that the restrictions would be relieved before the trip happened. As it turned out, that wasn't the case. So that money that we spent with Southwest for those flights, Southwest, you just made $600. You didn't do anything. You had no money. Nothing I could do about it. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I was irritated. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I was irritated. But anyway, he said, even though you have a good filtration system, I still believe that masks are a prudent thing to do, and we should be doing it. Also, I have former students who travel as professional musicians, saxophone players, and what they do is they're very careful and have been before pre-pandemic to mask up on the plane because what they don't want to get is sick at all. Because they didn't know that the filtration systems on airplanes are the best in the world. They are. So back in December 2022, Fauci acknowledged that there's a certain fatigue. Boy, oh boy, that's an understatement. About the mandates pertaining to COVID-19, even as cases began to climb during the winter months. People just got tired of it. Speaking with Fox News New York, Fauci said that local health authorities should be the ones making calls about COVID restrictions, but he is aware that people don't like being told what to do. No, we don't. You would like people to use good judgment to protect themselves and their families, he told Good Day New York, but there is a fatigue about mandates. People don't like to be told what to do. He added, however, that when there is an uptick in infections, which is followed by an uptick in hospitalization, you want to make sure you do something to mitigate against that. Right? So that's where we are. Now, there's a lot of chatter, lots and lots of chatter about new mandates and blah, 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 and mask wearing, and people who are saying, I ain't doing it, I don't care. I won't go to that store, they kick me out, blah, blah, blah. And frankly, okay, okay, I'm good. When our amusement park opened up, and my supervisor called me and said, hey, listen, we're going to open up, blah, 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 but we're all going to have to wear masks. And I said, and I didn't have to go back there, but I said, okay. So I didn't make a big deal about wearing the mask. I didn't think of it as a political thing at that time, or a right versus left, or even a right versus wrong thing. I just said, okay, I wanted to come back to work, and that wasn't a condition, because at that point I could have said no. The only time that it became a little touchy again or spicy again is when there was this chance that we might have had to take a vaccine in order to keep our jobs. And that's not a job that I necessarily need to keep. I'm blessed by God Himself to not need, those couple of days of employment. I just like it. So I made up my mind early, if that became a mandate or a requirement, then I would quit, or I would make them fire me, one of the two. And I felt good with that, because that's not the deal I came in with, right? I came in with wear a mask. If you get sick, let somebody know. I mean, I was down with all that, but I just wasn't down with necessarily having to take medication to keep my job. Not that job anyway. So I'm like, so what I'll do is, oh, I look down because my co-host, TC Bell, is yeah. She's got a new name every week. You guys met TC Bell, she's laying down. Because she has to go to the vet tomorrow. Still has an ear infection, and she got a little the eye booger thing. She has to take care of it. I know that's completely like I just went down a rabbit trail at 100 miles an hour right now. But anyway, so that's what's going on. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? YouTube. I'm not telling people what to do. Hell, today, I'm not even going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'll do something, because I always do, but I don't know what it is. Back then, the only place I wore a mask was to work, because I agreed to. And if I had to wear a mask, and I wore a mask with the doctor's office, because I still needed to go to the doctor, and that was the requirement. Okay. I didn't like it at all. None. But if there were places where I had to wear a mask and I didn't want to go, I just didn't go there. It was easy. I just didn't go there. I'm not going in there. If I got to wear a mask on there, screw it. I'm not doing it. That's funny that I got some beard hair there. There we go. It's funny that the rise in grocery delivery services went through the roof when grocery stores said, you got to wear a mask coming here if you want it. Screw that. Have them bring it to so you have a service that will bring it to my house, leave it at my door, and I just go and get it? Cool, let's do that. So there are still decisions to be made. I'd like to hear your decisions in the comments. YouTube is not going to let me tell you what to do, because I'm not going to tell you what to do, because they'll tag it for medical misinformation. That's why I'm going over and over this. I am not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to do it. But I will tell you to do this. I will tell you, thank you for coming to the Morning Report. Morning Report is a production of fightbackmedia.com, fightbackmedia.com. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody. And for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.